Hey, what's up, everybody? DDL44 coming into another video. All right, so some rare Laker news to talk about. Early September, Jordan Goodwin is signed on to be a part of our training camp and possibly preseason. From what I understand, I think that's all inclusive, but I'm not 100% sure, which is why I worded it that way. Jordan Goodwin was a player who kicked our tail pretty good in the second to last game of the season. As I just got through watching some content from Laker Nation, they had all the information that basically I took from the situation. I'm just kind of copying what they said. But essentially, they showed us that he had like 17 boards and 20-something points. I know for a fact that I covered that game because there wasn't too many games that I didn't cover last season with the Lakers. I might have missed one, although I don't think I did. So I know we reacted to that. He went off. Scottie Pippen Jr. went off before getting hurt. G.G. Jackson. They all, just the whole Memphis team really played well against the Lakers in that game and the game before that too, where I believe they beat us as well. So I think we won the game in question here, but Jordan Goodwin was one of the main guys and rebounded the ball so very well for the Memphis Grizzlies short-handed basketball club that really only suited up like 7 people. So he had all the minutes in the world and did great things with him. And that's the type of stuff that gets you opportunities. You know, teams that you did it against remember that and they want to bring you in. You know, we have an affinity for rebounding players here. I know our scouts tend to look for guys who do extraordinary things on the boards, and I like that. That's important to me. So I think Jordan Goodwin is somebody who, with the Memphis Grizzlies, was able to get about 8 boards a game with the extended minutes because of their situation last year with all the injuries. And so when you look forward at what you expect him to do for you, you don't really know if he have the opportunity to have those type of minutes, but you do expect that when he's on the floor, whenever he's on the floor, he gets you extra possessions. He didn't really shoot the ball very well from what I understand. 31% for his career. Pretty much hovering around there, so that's not a three-point shooter, but the three ball isn't everything, man. I'm just going to be honest with you. I like knowing that guys can space the floor, which is absolutely important, but it's not the end-all, be-all to whether or not a guy should be on a basketball floor in a lot of cases, and I think that's what's interpreted a lot of times. You'll let a guy average 1 assist at the point guard position if he can shoot 40% from the three. That's just a nightmare, if you ask me. There are other aspects of the game that needs to be taken into account. And so for me, I like what Jordan Goodwin brings to the table. I remember him when he played with Phoenix, had some good years. Well, I don't know how many years he played there, but he was there for a little bit, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, he got his start with Atlanta. I think he's got his start with Atlanta. I'm pretty sure he was an Atlanta Hawk for a little bit. So it's a guy who's been around. I think he's been in the league probably for about 5 years, 6 years, 25 years of age. So, you know, he's a role player, career role player, but you would expect that there's still some juice left in him. And he's shown that when he gets opportunities to have real minutes, he can be productive on the basketball floor. And that's what he did against us. So that's what I am ultimately thinking this is all about. Is just trying to find a guy who can come in and really put pressure on our guards to rebound in practice, push them for minutes even further, although I don't think we need guards necessarily for that. We have much more pressing needs at different positions, but it's much easier to grab a guard than it is to find what we need, because if we ultimately had that opportunity to get us a center, I think that would already be in place. So we all know what the Lakers need. I think the knee-jerk reaction is to say, why are we still picking up guards? But I think the reality is because they're just easier to get. That's really what it comes down to. Centers aren't coming plentiful right now for the squad, so that's ultimately what it is. But Jordan Goodwin, you know, when you play well against teams near the end of the season, when everybody's depleted, when everybody's, you know, either fighting for positioning or load managing because they've already established it, you can really buy yourself some opportunities by playing well in those minutes. So that's what he did near the end of the year. Really stepped into that Memphis situation and made a name for himself there. So he's a guy who I know knows how to make a team. He's been in the NBA every year, even though he's kind of hovering in this type of status. He tends to do enough when showcasing himself to earn a spot with the regular team. So I don't see why he wouldn't have a good showing in this situation with the Lakers. So yeah, that's what I wanted to tell you guys. That's pretty much the only news I've really heard. Everything else is just you know, hearsay and people coming up with stuff to talk about, and rehashing stuff that we already knew, and trying to find something controversial, some kind of controversial topic that came up a few days ago. I don't really exactly remember what it was. That's how far under the radar it fell for me. But I think that's kind of what people are looking for. It's like, oh, somebody said something about somebody. All right, let's out that. Somebody said something about Rob Pelinka or something like that. I don't remember who it was, but somebody allegedly blamed Rob Pelinka for the Lakers' struggles or something like. I don't know, man. I think that's what it was. Player from a few years back, might have been Dwight Howard or somebody like that. Might have said it was Rob Pelinka's fault that the team didn't stay together after 2020. Just revisionist history, man. That stuff doesn't hold any weight with me, to be honest with you. What are my thoughts? I don't have any. That's not important. What's important is what we're doing going forward. If we want to throw Rob Pelinka under the bus for old mistakes, that's your prerogative. You know, we certainly have some things that are eating away at our ability to build the team now that were done in the past, and that's what we were talking about all summer. You know, if you want to be mad at Rob, if we want to fire Rob, you're probably looking to fire him for things that led up to why we can't make moves right now. Not necessarily that we can't make moves right now. A lot of people don't agree with the fact that the Lakers aren't making moves. I've heard some real prominent talking heads say that they give the Lakers off season a fail and a D- because they didn't make moves. Fam. I want people to understand this, and this has been my take on this all year long, since the offseason began, rather. I agree that we need to get better to improve the team to the level from which this investment would make sense in LeBron James and Anthony Davis. So, by definition of what they're saying, yeah, we didn't do well because we couldn't improve the team, and this team has already had so much invested in it that you would likely want to maximize its opportunity to get better. The problem is the things that the Lakers have to do in order to get better, as far as I can tell, are going to cost too much to actually accomplish. So it's sort of like saying, I got $100 in my pocket and I need to buy a car so that my life can be easier as I move about the city. Yes, I failed because I don't have a car. But where I really failed was not actually having the money to buy it. It wasn't that I had a reluctancy to handle what was necessary. It's that I didn't have the funds to do so. And that's what people need to really, really get into their mindset about the choice to not make moves. You could not afford to make the moves you wanted to make. And because you're in an environment of negotiation, people are using that against you, further driving up the price even higher than it should be on things. Knowing that you need to make moves, knowing that you don't have the money to do it. So it made it so that you were likely going to get fleeced for anything that you do. Now, some people think that that's a bullet you should bite. I just disagree. And if you have a full understanding of that and you still feel the Lakers should bite that bullet, then I respect your opinion. I just don't think it's a good one for what it is that you ultimately want your franchise to be about going forward. You're going to suck more because of those decisions. You understand? Just like we suck more for actually doing that Russell Westbrook crap, you're going to suck more for doing that stuff that people want to do that's too expensive. So if you're saying you want us to do another Westbrook trade, and that's your opinion, then that's kind of how I'm interpreting it. Maybe not something that would be such a failure, but something that's going to cost the same and suck just as much in its own way. That's exactly what any trade y'all was talking about doing. A lot of y'all talking heads giving away 2 picks for Dorian Finney-Smith and all types of stuff like that just so you can improve the team right now. You don't actually make your franchise any better. You just give yourself a much better puncher's chance at being a better regular season and maybe playoff team. But you ain't putting yourself close enough to win a championship, and you're giving away assets that ultimately can deter any chance of you having an opportunity to make one later. So how is that better? how is that actually making your team better? You're making this unit more capable of losing later in the playoffs than they otherwise would. But that's not something that's going to ultimately give you a championship in my mind. Things got to go completely right for you to even be in a position to strike for a championship if you do a trade that is so far over the top in regards to what you're paying for it. And do have a full understanding that why you are in a position that you can't make moves, or that your franchise doesn't feel like it's responsible to make moves, is because they did that type of stuff in the past. And that is why you're in this position. So it's like, no, I'm not asking us to further dig ourselves into the same damn hole that we can't seem to get out of. You double down on the mistake. That's all that is. So I just want people to understand, man, no Brooklyn Nets trade was going to make you a champion. No Portland Trailblazer trade was going to make you a champion. Okay? You didn't have the leverage nor the assets to acquire enough. You had eaten away at your assets, letting that asset class dissipate past the point that would allow you to be as competitive as you need to be. You know what I'm saying? That's really what it is. If every team, and this is a really important point, if every team in your environment had mortgaged and let as much dissipate from themselves as you're allowed to dissipate from yourself, then you would have more of a case for going further in, because you would still be on par with the rest of the field. But that the rest of the field has more of their natural pie, so to speak, than you do, because you done ate 3 and 4 or 5 pieces and threw half of the rest of that down the toilet. When you go up against them, no matter what you do with your pieces that you have left, you still have less than the rest of them. And that's what people need to really understand. It's because we ate at those trades that ended up having us bad. It's because you messed up the Caruso trade instead of capturing his value. Julius Randle, not capturing his value properly. These type of things. Giving away first rounders in the Westbrook trade, and then further giving away more first rounders in the second Westbrook trade. These type of things ate at what you have. That's really what it came down to. And other teams don't have that problem. They just don't. When you go up against them, they have more fuller teams, because more of that value is represented in players on the floor and tradable assets than you have, while you were letting stuff dissipate into nothing. So yes, those are mistakes that Rob Pelinka helped facilitate. I don't know if it was his call to do some of these things, but it was his responsibility to ultimately inform everybody who wanted to make moves what could happen, if nothing else. And we're without. We are simply without. So when it's time to make certain trades, competitive trades that can get you a start, if you're bidding against anybody who doesn't have that problem, you're going to lose that bargaining situation. You're going to lose that. You don't have the better package. And that's what I always try to preach about. It's like a team like OKC, you're not winning a bidding war with OKC. You're not winning a bidding war with San Antonio. You're not winning a bidding war with Utah. These teams got more than a pie. They got a pie and a half based on some of the decisions they made, and you got half a pie. And so it's like, and if you don't understand that, you're in some trouble. And not only that, but not only have you let some of your value dissipate, but as we've mentioned a million times, you got the majority of what is most valuable wrapped up in 2 people that you refuse to move, in AD and Bron. So it's like, that's the bulk of your value right there, which is why I always say you have to reset if you really want to fix this problem, because you can turn them back into 2 pies. They're worth 2 pies if you trade them. But if that they're not being up for trade means that they can't be accounted for in value. You're holding on to them regardless, so you're never going to get a dime for them. You just have them. You know what I mean? 2 Rolls Royces without any gas. They're still valuable cars. You trade them away, they're going to give you all the money in the world. But as long as you're holding on to them, all you have is an issue that you can't afford gas for your cars. That's it. All you got is them 2 cars. So if you ain't going to trade them, then you good as broke. You're a broke man with 2 valuable things. That's it. And so that's what Laker fans need to understand, fully work into the equation when assessing whether or not we should do certain things. Absolutely not. No. You can't. You don't even have the ability to do those things. Now, if you want to get mad at the people who made decisions to let players go without capturing their value, that's what went wrong. That's what actually happened there. You know what I mean? That's what it is. That overspending. That's what kicked you behind. You don't have any money now. So that's the truth about the Laker organization right now. Is there a possibility something great could happen? Yeah, I mean, we're in a better position than most teams in our situation because we always have the Laker brand. So there's a small chance that somebody going to try to leverage their way here for off-the-court reasons, or may try to leverage their way here because they want to play with LeBron James. That's what you have over other teams who would otherwise have this problem. They're in the dumps. They ain't got no hope. You have a hope because you still are the Lakers. And your brand carries enough weight in and of itself to make it so that the impossible could be possible for you. But that doesn't mean that you have liquid assets that you can trade to make yourself a full basketball team. No, it don't. It just means that if somebody like Steph Curry decides they want to be a Laker, you can get yourself out of this situation as to where no other team would. That's really all it means. And in regards to you trying to build your team, that leverage doesn't help you. So, yeah, man, I don't think the Lakers should have done anything. I don't think there was anything to do. I don't think there was anything to do. And, you know, if I'm to grade the Lakers off season, I give it a B. It would have been an A if, and I'm saying this carefully because I haven't fully thought out my grade here, but I think it would have been an A if they would have got everything they were looking for. If they would have been able to get the coach that they wanted, because obviously the J.J. Redick situation went a certain way after we realized we couldn't get Dan Hurley. Maybe if they were able to get Dan Hurley, I could probably give them a higher grade. Although I am not unhappy with J.J. in any way. It's just they reached and they failed for that person. And I'm of the mindset that I think getting another second-round pick was obtainable. And with that second-round pick, we could have addressed our center position since there were multiple centers in that second round. And you really did need the body. I do not think the Lakers should have taken a center over Dalton Connect with him falling to us at that point. I don't think so. But I do not think that you should walk out of that draft without a center. Just the same. And I thought we may have been able to obtain a second-round pick, given that literally a good 70% of the second-round picks were traded. They really were. Everything was moved in the second round this past summer. So I don't know, man. I think that's what really eats away at my grade for the team. I just don't like the idea that we didn't do more to assure that we had that big body player in place. And that really caps off your ability to get lucky because you just simply can't match up. You know what I mean? That's what it comes down to. At least if we had that Bruno Fernando-like player, maybe you can get lucky. You know what I mean? Without that player, you got some of the best players in the league able to shoot over you with ease. Embiid, Jokic, Wemby. Well, Wemby maybe not because he's a little smaller in his back pocket, but the big centers their teams should beat you this year, and there shouldn't be a whole lot you can do about it. And so I just think that's really where it's like, all right, if we're trying to at least give ourselves the best opportunity to get lucky, you don't let yourself go into this season without that particular piece, even if he's not a very good one. You got to have somebody big, man. I don't care if you get Boban. You just got to have somebody big, bro, so you can get lucky. You know what I'm saying? That's really what it comes down to. Give Anthony Davis a breather out there so he ain't got to keep banging with people that really do have his number. Domantas Sabonis has his number. We haven't done anything to help that situation, so I expect us to lose 4 games to the Kings again this year. That's just what it is. I don't expect to have any success against Jokic. Jokic shouldn't have no problem with this Laker team we're putting out there this year. None. So, like, these are the type of things. It's like we address a lot of different things. Some more so in regards to our inactivity, addressing the fact that you can't afford things so you don't do things. I think that's an action, a choice to not overspend or further dig us in that hole. I think that's a good thing. But you give yourself no chance to match up. And so that's really what it comes down to. We should have addressed that. And I think there was an opportunity in the second round. So that's my thought. And I also think that we could do a much better job of scanning the worldwide world, for somebody who's big enough to do that for us. I don't think that the world is devoid of 7-footers who can come in and play that role for our team. I don't know that we've been able to find him, and I think that eats away at my grade as well. And you couldn't find a dude from Serbia. You know what I'm saying? Like, you couldn't find a guy from that Sudan team that could play the center position, that you could pay $1 million to do that for us this year. Even if he doesn't play, to just fulfill our need for that big center. There's somebody out there in the G League that you need to call up, man. He don't have to be good. He just has to be big. You see what I'm saying? And so that you can have a chance at getting lucky. And that's all I'm asking. And I do think that that's obtainable. I think that's doable. And also, one thing that also I'm not thrilled about is we didn't waive Cam Reddish. I don't understand that. Maybe there's some technical reason why he could not be waived, and if that's the case, cool. But as far as I can tell, there's really no reason to have that player on the roster at this point. Not to say that I'm so far down on him that I would be willing to move him in most situations. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, in our specific situation, he seems like the most reasonable player that we can let go of to create a roster spot that would allow us to do certain things. You know, you let Gary Trent Jr. not come because you couldn't get a roster spot. If it were possible that you could have waived a guy, you should have waived the guy. That's really why I'm hit with it. So that type of stuff is like, all right, man, I don't think the Lakers had a whole lot of wiggle room, but to say they couldn't do some things that maybe would have improved their wiggle room, I don't believe that we didn't have the ability to improve our wiggle room. I just think people did it. I really think that. But again, this is a different world in regards to this collective bargaining agreement. And for all I know, there could be some real legitimate roadblocks in the way of such, as to which I'll just, I'll let that be. But if they don't have those roadblocks in front of them, I have a real problem with not creating more wiggle room. It's not like we can create a lot of space, but you can't tell me you can't move one guy so that you can create a roster spot. And the lack of preparation for that trouble is troubling. Because we knew we were going to draft Bronny James. We knew that the likelihood that we would give him a guaranteed contract was going to be in place well before the offseason began. So we should have been trying to move small pieces on the board to assure that we had that roster spot. Maybe buy a guy out of his option or something like that, if at all possible. There are certain things that should have been prepared for. And I think that that's really where Rob Pelinka hadn't done a good job, is making sure that he prepared for the roadblocks ahead so that some of this stuff we got going on right now doesn't end up happening. Because a guy like Gary Trent Jr. should be a Laker right now. That roster spot should have been open for him. That's the bottom line. That's really what it comes down to. So I gave him a B. I probably talked my way into like a B- or a C+, because there's certain things it's like, okay, I get it, we're kind of strangled, but we've wasted a hell of a lot of time trying to figure out how to bring a coach like Dan Hurley to the situation. Some of that Dan Hurley time that was spent trying to court him should have been trying to figure out how to maneuver more opportunities at a roster spot, in my opinion. Because at the end of the day, he was a long shot. We didn't actually commit the money necessary to blow his top away, to make him feel like we really wanted him. So that seemed like a unnecessary demonstration that ultimately required time wasting. And I thought it was done more for show in regards to, see, we're not going to just hire JJ. We're going to look for a better guy and then land on JJ if we can't get the better guy, even though we're not really going after the better guy. That type of, showcase, or whatever you call that, pantomime, whatever the word would be for that. I just thought that was a waste of precious time when you got very specific problems that you really need to learn how to maneuver around and or fix. And who wasting time trying to go after people like Dan Hurley, who weren't going to come here for a multitude of reasons, including the problems at hand. So it's like, I think that's where we really had a setback. Guys aiming for the moon on stuff they should not actually be aiming for. Stuff that they probably, based on the circumstances of deficiency in the pie, so to speak, that analogy, probably shouldn't even have that type of coach. You know what I mean? He should be in a situation where they got a pie and a half. You know what I'm saying? And a bunch of young guys instead of Bron and AD. So it's just, you waste a lot of time with that, Laker Nation, Laker front office. We wasted a lot of time aiming for stuff we thought we deserved that we really didn't. And you probably should have been spending more time fixing other key things, managing other key things, allowing yourself more wiggle room and a roster spot specifically. So, yeah, man, I'm not overly thrilled. I think the problems that we had, the big problems that we had, gave an excuse for people to not focus on some of the stuff that needed to be done within those areas of problem. It's like I know my kitchen's dirty, so I'm not going in there to really cook. And you need to be able to cook, fam. So clean the damn kitchen and then cook. Don't tell me that the kitchen is too dirty to cook in, so you're going to eat out every day and spend money you can't afford because you don't want to cook in a kitchen that's dirty. Clean the kitchen. You know what I mean? That's the kind of thing. I ain't going in the fridge, man. Everything in there is bad. So throw it out. Throw out what's in the fridge that needs to be thrown out. Don't tell me that you're afraid to go into the fridge. Or what's the use of going in the fridge? Everything that goes in there spoils. No, it doesn't. You just don't throw anything out because you never go to the fridge. So that's kind of how I look at what the Lakers are dealing with. That's the analogy I choose to use. I just don't think that they really gave as much attention to the details of their circumstances because those situations look so difficult to deal with. You know what I mean? So it's like, well, we'll deal with it later type stuff. That's what it almost felt like they were doing in some ways. So yeah, man, I think that at the end of the day, Cam Reddish should not be a Laker right now. He should have been moved for a roster spot that would allow us to bring in that shooter. Not to say that Cam Reddish can't have a good season or that he can't help a team. That's not what I'm saying. I just felt like he was the most expendable piece of all the pieces that we have, man. I really believe that. I don't think you can move some of these other guys based on, because you have a center issue. Moving Jackson Hayes probably ain't the move. Gabe Vincent, his contract is not easily waivable. Probably holds some value if you start the season with it, even though I could argue I have just as little use for him as I do Cam Reddish in this situation. And I mean, Christian Wood, another center, you probably need the 7-footer. You know what I mean? So it's like that Cam Reddish piece, that should have been the expendable piece. There's no reason he should be starting the season with the Lakers, eating up a roster spot when we had an opportunity at Gary Trent Jr. That should never happen. Not based on the needs to shoot the ball. That should never happen. So, yeah, that's really where I'm at with that, man. I'm not thrilled. I think at the end of the day, Rob Pelinka's made some mistakes that led up to the situation, and we're trying to maneuver around those mistakes, and we're finding what comes with doing the things that we did. That you don't have a whole lot of wiggle room. That you can't really make moves. That you have to take on the scrutiny of being inactive when activity is necessary but not maybe possible. It's like, yeah, this was foreseeable. You just gotta not make some of those decisions. As I always say, some mistakes you can't make once. You understand what I'm saying? Some mistakes can't be made at all. You do that one thing and you're out of here. That kind of thing. And then I think the Lakers did a few of those for themselves leading up to this. So how do you handle that after those mistakes are made? Well, you don't further dig yourself in the hole. You don't further reinforce those mistakes. You just got to live with yourself. And I think that's kind of where we're at. So am I mad at the Lakers for living with themselves? No. Am I further angry at those mistakes for being made? That's a waste of brain space when you consider it. Why am I still pissed off at something I already knew it's been, it's been bad the whole time? These are mistakes that were made 2-3 years ago. It's just the consequences come now. It's like going to jail, getting 5 years, and then getting mad at like your 3rd year. You wake up in this year 3 and you just start getting mad all of a sudden for no reason for stuff that you already did. You're enjoying the fruits of your labor, friend. You did the wrong job and now you pay the long tax, and that's ultimately what it is. So nobody's on this channel is going to rile themselves up to get pissed off about something that ultimately was done 3 years ago. That kind of stuff, you know what I mean? It's just what it is, man. We just got to live through it. And because I understand that, I'm not suggesting that we do anything like make a trade to improve the roster. Nah, we already ruined that. We ruined that. We made it effectively impossible to do so without further injuring ourselves. So I can pretend I don't understand that, but it doesn't change the situation. I can listen to people who don't understand the situation and rile myself up into thinking it makes more sense to continue injuring myself. That doesn't add up either. Injuries hurt, so it's like, nah, fam, just gotta live with it. I think we made decisions that within the leverage space we had to make. Drafting LeBron James' son, giving Bron a no trade clause. Those are things that you didn't have the leverage to fight. If you want to keep LeBron James, you value him the way that we do, you can't tell him he can't get a no trade clause from the Lakers. Because he's going to get a no trade clause from the Knicks. He's going to get a no trade clause from Philly. You can't tell him he ain't getting his 53, whatever he ended up making. Because he's going to get that from the Knicks. He's going to get that from Philly. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, you don't really have the wiggle room to make things easier for yourself in regards to these type of things. Which is why you got to make life easier on yourself in other areas. Because you really don't have the leverage to do some of the other stuff that would otherwise make your life easier. I can always say I need a car, but if I only got $100 in my pocket, I ain't getting no damn car. You feel me? So that's the analogy, man. I hope people are enjoying this content. I hope people understand where we're coming from and understand that the environment's even more difficult because now we've got these aprons over everything, making it very difficult to move. So you can talk about how you want to make trades, but other teams have to agree to make trades with you. It ain't just you deciding you're going to make a trade and then all of a sudden you have the opportunity. That's not how this works. And it takes two to tango. So if the other side ain't interested in doing nothing, ain't nothing getting done no matter how urgent you feel. You know what I'm saying? You better overpay. You're not only paying for what you're trading for, but you're also trading, you're trying to pay for the idea that they're going to go against what it is they think is best for them. That's going to cost you even more. So, yeah, no, that's not realistic, man. We could talk about these type of things and say what the Lakers need, and we can talk about all these different things we can't afford and demand we have them. And if you ain't got the money to pay for them, you ain't going to have them. You can just sit up there and be unhappy. That's all it's going to be about. So, that's it, man. I hope everybody's enjoying their day. That's pretty much what I got to say. My name is BDF44. I thank y'all for watching. I'm out.